Okay, it is 3 o'clock. We will call the regular meeting of the Hutchinson Utility Commission to order. Commissioners, do you have any conflicts of interest to declare?
None.
Hearing none, we'll move to the consent agenda to approve the minutes and ratify payment of bills.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and the payment of bills. I'll second.
We have a motion by Matt and second by Troy. All in favor to approve the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, straight into the financial statements, Jeremy?
All right, just starting on just kind of the combined divisions, just overall, from a year-to-date net profit compared to last year, we're almost identical to where we were last year. Obviously, when you look at the differences, a lot of significant things are different. First being, as you guys have kind of been noticing over the year so far, on retail sales, both on the electric side and gas side are significantly down. So you'll see that's a big difference. We got a lot less revenue coming in from that side of things. The sales for resales obviously is down because the big unit's out of service. So we're just not capitalizing on the tolling arrangements that we typically do. Although there is interest in getting back into that as soon as our engine gets back. I've been having some conversations and some phone messages left about when that gets put back in, there's opportunity and appetite for that. So we have those abilities to do that. On the natural gas side of transportation, obviously we have Heartland Corn on now, so that's a transmission customer that we haven't had in the past. So that's going to continually skew this year over last year because we're just generating some additional profits there on that side. And then the other one we touched on last month on the other revenue side was just the Heartland Corn reimbursement for that transmission line. So when you look at those kind of things of how they've changed over time, and then you pair in that our retail sales are down, so we're spending less on natural gas commodities. Our transmission expenses are down on the electric side because it hasn't been as hot. We haven't had as much load, particularly peak load, at times when the zone has had their peak. So we're saving some transmission costs there. So there's a lot of kind of variances between some of the classes, but overall, when you look at the bottom line, we're right about where we should be. I anticipate some of those stabilizing going into next year once we get back to what I would say having our normal fleet in service. Weather is always an unpredictability, right? We don't know if that's going to happen or not. But overall, right now, we're trending kind of last year. From a division standpoint, separately, again, purchase power is down because it's just been warmer. Again, May was no different than beginning of the year. We were down in sales, again, 5.7% on kilowatt hours sold. Year to date, we're down about 1% now. We've seen some ramp back up of some of the industrial and commercial load has come back, and we've talked a little bit about that over a few months. So that's come back a little bit. A couple of things I will mention. Again, rate stabilization fund on the electric side, we're at, if you look at the balance sheet, we're at $398,000 in our rate stabilization fund. Some of you are aware that we have a rate stabilization fund or cash reserve set aside to make sure that if changes in cost of power fluctuate over a month, that we use cash reserves to keep that kind of flat and even for the customer. But that range is $400,000 on the low end and $1.2 million on the high end. So we're below the lowest portion of our rate stabilization fund. We haven't had to charge customers for that additional cost of power because we're in the spring season. And I kind of mentioned that that's coming off after this month. So we're going into the summer months now. So next month will be June rates. So June, July, and August will be the summer rates from MRES, which is our wholesale supplier. So just to give you an idea of how the cost changes, right now, the spring months, we get charged $43 a megawatt hour from our wholesale supplier because it's the spring and the fall are the cheapest rates, and then the winter and the summer are the most expensive rates. So we're going to be going from May's $43 a megawatt up to $58.48 a megawatt. So that's an increase of 36% on our wholesale cost, which makes up about 75% of our load of what we're buying. So why I'm telling you that is don't be surprised when we get into June's financials that all of a sudden now we have a power cost adjustment depending on how June finishes up. Now, thankfully, the June season hasn't been particularly warm yet either, so we're seeing still electrical loads down relatively on the residential side. But don't be surprised if June, July, or August financials we start seeing power cost adjustments because our bench rate for power cost adjustments is when our power cost supply is above $54 a megawatt. So our wholesale supply is already above that. So it just depends on how we can blend that cost down with either market sales, buying additional power off the market, those types of things to kind of net that down below the wholesale. So just kind of keep an eye on that piece. Just wanted to mention that, especially for some of the commissioners that maybe don't know that the rates are changing by season, but that is coming into effect. But overall, right now, we're sitting good, haven't charged any power cost adjustments to date. And then on the gas side of things, again, same kind of story. Consumption is down, retail sales are down. This one's a little bit more, a little bit larger than what we typically see, but overall year to date we're down just under 13%. So that's, typically you don't like necessarily seeing that on that piece. But overall, I would say consistent with what our natural gas commodity prices are, what our retail sales are at relative to the consumption. So nothing's trending really out of the ordinary there. And the other piece, and I had Jared note on here, is just when you look at salaries and benefits, you'll see month over month, May to May, that we had almost a 30% increase in salaries. That's because we're now fully staffed moving forward. So if you guys recall, some of you recall over the last 2 years, we haven't been fully staffed on that side. So we've always been 1 or 2 FTEs short for a number of reasons. But May of 2024 was a fully staffed natural gas division, which is 2 more FTEs than we've been paying for. So that makes.
We still have John also.
John is still on the payroll right now until about July-ish. So we're going to be fully staffed on that side, and then if there's a transition between him going off and the new hire, we'll have a little bit of savings there now, but he's still on the payroll yet. So we've got the full-time construction guy on, and then that just started, and then
May.
and the other guy. So that's why there's a little variance there above what we would normally see. Otherwise,
Nice to be staffed though.
it is nice to be staffed. Otherwise, there's a couple of notes on the cash designation report. When you look at that, you can see in the electric division now that we're below excess cash, below all of our reserves and our designations. We're a negative $1 million. Obviously, that's going to grow as we look at engine exchange and transmission substation expenses. That's going to continually grow, and we've talked a little bit about that and looking at financial structures to bridge the gap before some of our debt service comes off. I just wanted to let you know that that's kind of the first time I've seen it that high, and we're going to have some additional costs coming up. So just kind of monitor that, and we'll keep track of that. And then really on the investment side, the investment report, our market value has increased for the month, $113,000 over last month. Over the last couple of months, we've positioned some of our investments that matured into higher interest rates. So we'll be gleaming some additional interest income off of some of those that we've reinvested in. So we've got some positive things on that side. But overall, those are tracking fairly well as far as things. The other point I mentioned, I know I've mentioned in the past, but I think it's still good to mention, is we've had some conversations about moving up some of our investments into shorter terms and keeping them a little bit more liquid because of all the major projects going on. So as you look at the bar graph, you can see the intentional thought of keeping it within 2 to 3 years so that we've got plenty of liquidity there if we need to. So I thought that's important to mention too, that we've talked about those things and we've done that. So
I think that's an excellent plan.
any questions on a lot? I kind of went through it fairly fast. You guys are pretty into a lot of this stuff, so it's just good to remind people of that.
Any questions for Jeremy?
No?
I make a motion to approve the financial statements.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Kathy and second by Matt. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the open forum. I don't see any visitors here with us today. So we move right into communication and straight to the divisions. Dan,
Nothing today.
Dave?
We're continuing on with our reconductor projects. New house services are going in now. A couple new business developments happening in town, and it's continuing construction.
It seems like construction season's going pretty strong.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Got a good spring, and now we're getting into summer. It's been good.
All right. Anything to cover for natural gas?
Yeah, on the natural gas side of things, we just finished up a 1.5-day audit last week. We had MinOps out to do the records and verification audit. So Angie said on the audit, we had John come back to help with kind of the audit, and then we had the crew chief sitting in there because I had to get off on a few other items. Went very well. They're out here 1.5 days. They originally had about 3.5 days planned, so we went through that pretty well. Their big area of focus when they got out in the field was cathodic protection. essentially meaning they looked at the soil readings and where all of our test stations are to make sure that there's no, overhead electrical current or minerals or things in the ground that are creating electrical interference on our distribution system that could cause fractures in our piping or things of that nature. So that all checked out very well. And Todd had actually told me you guys have a very good system in place. You guys know exactly where everything is at. You're monitoring your reads. So he complimented that side, and just said, hey, we don't always see that. So
Which
you guys did a
is
good job.
concerning. I would hope everybody would know where their stuff is.
Well,
Right.
apparently it is not the case sometimes. So that went well. And then on just continually working through regulatory and compliance issues with that contract that you guys approved from Renegade. So Bryce and I are meeting monthly with those guys to update all of our high consequent area and moderate consequent areas for both Heartland Corn's transmission line and our line. So things are moving forward on that. And then also starting to update some of our policies and manuals and things with all the new regulations changing on the natural gas side. So that's been going on. And then Angie and I have been working through some inbound stuff over the last probably month with Northern Border. So I think we've got those things resolved and we're moving in the right direction. So those are kind of the big ticket items on the natural gas side. I don't know if you have anything that you're also working on.
We're going to start working on the natural gas position, so we've been starting to gather information on that and literature on that, and then operator qualifications, learning that as well, and making sure we have a handle on that, along with total compliance, drug and alcohol testing, and understanding that program, and deadlines and dates that things need to be done with that.
So your plates are very full. Well, thank you guys for taking care of those things. Any questions on those? Anything on the HR front?
Just hired 2 seasonal temps this past month too, so that's been working out good. So.
Very good. Mark, do you have anything?
Nothing today.
Okay. Jeremy, back to you.
Just last couple of things, prepaid deal that's in the packet, been working on that, so we're moving forward on that. And then the GE items we'll be touching on. And then a couple other things, we had that MMUA June 6th meeting here, regional meeting, so it was pretty well attended. We had a big consortium from Buffalo came down, so they were there, people from Glencoe were there, and some people that came from one of the metro cities was there as well. And so MMUA kind of went through what kind of wrapped up with the legislative session as it pertained to the electric and natural gas industry. So pretty well attended. They did a good job on that piece. I think we had 20, 25 people, 20-ish people there. So that went good. And then the other thing, just that Andy had mentioned to me, Dave, if we're, from a financing standpoint, if we are looking to do some bonding potentially, that I know the city's looking at doing some potentially bonding for some of the developments going on, that we just need to make sure we're cognizant of the $10 million bonding threshold. So I said, we're looking at those things, but we're looking at more short-term financing than we are looking at long-term financing to bridge some gaps. But he wanted to just mention it to us that we got to make sure we're both in unison on how much bonding the city can do in a year. So just thought I'd mention it to you guys.
That's a good thing for us to remember.
Correct. Yep. That's it.
Very good, thank you. Number 6, policies. We have a handful to review there, it looked like. Nothing with changes.
Correct.
No unfinished business, so right into new business and approve requisition 9932, the final air filter for Unit 1. Guess that's yours today, Jeremy.
Yep, so we're looking to replace all the air filters in the Donaldson house before Unit 1 gets back. It wasn't a budgeted item before the unit went out, but they went through and started doing some additional maintenance and things while stuff was out and we weren't running, and realized that these things are getting to the end of their useful life. There's a lot of corrosion and things on those, so instead of waiting a year or two and putting it in the budget and then have to have the unit down, if we want it to run, we should do it now. So I said, let's put it in the pack. We'll have the board move it forward since it's timely before the unit gets back. So we're looking to have you guys approve this requisition to replace all the filters in there, and then we should be in good shape moving forward on the filters.
So if somebody didn't know what the Donaldson house was, what is it?
It's big air, they're big air
There
intake.
Big, yeah, I don't know.
This is a big tall stack you see on the north end of the unit. Where it pulls all the air in, so there's a bunch of filters in there.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the manufacturer or why it's called Donaldson.
I think
Okay.
it is.
Donaldson
Yeah.
Torch.
Thank you.
Yeah. I was like, how do you describe it? And then obviously it's part of the emissions, right? I mean, it's the air emissions and those sorts of things, and they're just getting that.
Well, for a filter to last 10 years, that's, I don't know what the standard is. It seems like a long time.
Seems pretty good.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty good. I think part of it's how we run the unit too. We're not running like a base load plant, and that would obviously lessen the useful life of the filters the more you're pushing through there. But so I think
Makes sense.
we should be good moving forward. So
Make a motion to approve 009932.
All
Second.
right, we have a motion by Troy and second by Matt. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the approval for the Hutchinson substation electric materials advertisement for bid. Dan?
Yes, this is the latest installment of Hutchinson substation bids. This one will be 5 bids. It'll be for the instrumentation transformers and 115 and 69 kV switches, the structural steel poles, and other miscellaneous items. So now we're starting to work our way down into the finer details. We ordered some of the bigger items already, the transformer and the circuit breakers, and now we're starting to work our way into the smaller components of the substation. So we'd like to solicit bids for these 5 items.
So there'll be 5 separate bids going out
Yep.
simultaneously.
One advertisement for bids, and then, yep, there'll be 5 individual bid packages that people can bid on.
Gotcha. Questions?
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Matt, second by Troy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next, we have to execute the short-term prepay natural gas supply contract. Jeremy?
yes, so at the May meeting, you guys approved the resolution to move forward on an executed contract, assuming that they would go out and remarket the bonds sometime in the near future. So they did let me know last week that they did go out and reprice the bonds on June 18th. They're closing actually tomorrow, all the closing documentations and closing due tomorrow. So it just happened to work out timely for us that we had a board meeting the day before where we could bring back kind of the final short-term contract, which was in the Mays packet. It just was the draft copy. The final version is in here now, where you can see the delivery point is Trimont, which is where we get all of our gas, and then the volumes that are in there. Mark and I have reviewed the contract. Everything looks good. The other piece that we talked about, which is section 4.07, is the ability for us to move volumes out of this short-term prepay deal into a longer prepay deal with MCE if we choose to do that down the road. So you can see in one of those exhibits back there that there's certain volumes that they've put in a different column under a section 4.07, which is 35% of the volumes in here. So we have that ability to do that if we want in there. So we just need to execute the short-term contract. And then we've got Mark provided his opinion letter, attorney's opinion letter that we did the last time, and then we've got the buyer certificate and some of the kind of the closing signature pages that we need to provide those guys to kind of wrap up all the participants in the prepaid deal so that they can finalize and close the bond issuance out tomorrow. So we're asking for you guys to approve the short-term contract with Peak.
And that is a savings of $50,000 to $70,000 a year
Yep,
on estimate.
at the 10-cent discount, correct. Yep.
And could go up if you go into a long term.
Correct. If we pull some out eventually, we'll have more savings.
Sure.
Yep.
I make a
Obviously.
motion to approve the short-term gas supply contract.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Kathy and a second by Matt. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, 8E, approve the LM6000 PA model advertisement for bid.
So at the last meeting, we talked about trying to go through a joint purchasing program relative to going out and actually doing an advertisement for bid. So I've been working over the last few weeks to try to work with a joint purchasing program like Sourcewell, a couple other different sites. What's really been described to me is those sites are really more for what I would call larger volume items. So those sites and those organizations, Sourcewell is a government agency, so they go through and they vet and they create their own contracts, their own RFPs for like purchasing fleets of vehicles or purchasing furniture or purchasing higher volume types of items that then they vet the vendors and the suppliers and then they're ready to go. So if HEC wanted to go out and buy, 400 chairs or 6 F-150s, they've already vetted it, they've already got the lowest price. So that's how those kind of sites and those organizations designed. Doing these types of specialized, customized things doesn't fit kind of the joint purchasing programs. So I did use the example of going out and purchasing a particular engine that only fits our generation facility, and they said we don't get into that. They do have a generation, well, they have a generation in like energy industry category, but like with Sourcewell as an example, we go through and renew our contracts and review about what contracts and bids we want to put out there every 4 years. And like your category, it doesn't come up until 2026 again, where we'll look at what our membership is interested in seeing out there and go through that. So it really wasn't kind of designed the way we would really needed to for something like this. So then Mark and I got together and talked about what other option do we have, and really the only other option to make sure that we're in compliance with, you know, the bidding laws and things related to this is just to go out and publicly bid it. So I did have a conversation with GE, which is another item in here, and so we kind of got two things going on. One, we are asking you on the next item to approve kind of the requisition to make sure that there is no slowing down of, you know, them still working on the LPT and working on a general engine exchange, but yet I also let them know we need to physically go out and officially advertise for bid and go through the bidding process. So there is an air of maybe someone potentially having something that fits the description. So there's a little bit of risk there on that type of stuff, but this was the best approach, and the only really approach that we can move down to try to keep things moving along, to try to have an engine back in service here by August. So it's kind of a backwards way of trying to get things done, and some roads seem like they were going to work, and they're just not going to work for what we need here. And obviously, we're up against the deadline of markets and things of that nature, so we kind of got crunched for time. But Mark, anything to add as far as that?
I don't think so. I think that you explained it, really well. I mean, we checked out every option we possibly could, and it just came down to, hey, we need to remain compliant with the state bidding requirements, and unfortunately at this 11th hour, that's kind of what we're stuck with, considering the time frames are involved, and that's really it.
You never know what could happen, I guess, but I'll have a chuckle if one does come. So
From what we've been told and what we think we know, there's not a whole lot of those engines out there, so I guess we'll find out. But this seems like the only method we have to try to get to the finish line. So it's the one we need to go to.
yep, absolutely.
Make a motion to approve the advertisement for bid, the LM6000 PA model.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Troy and second by Kathy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That one passes. And the last item that we have on the agenda today is requisition 9941, the purchase of the LM6000 PA Partial Life Exchange Unit 1.
So this piece, really, three reasons why I'm bringing this forward to you to approve before the end of June is it's really to do three things. One, it's to hold the extended warranty to 24 months, because originally they're only using a 12-month warranty. So to maintain the extended warranty, to maintain the current pricing that they're willing to offer, since they've been holding it for about 2 months now. So those two pieces are critical to that, and then also to make sure that they're not holding up current repairs on the engine that's coming. That's been a reason why we're trying to put it in front of you today, to make sure that it's approved by June. Otherwise, those things are off the table and they're putting it out to market. So I said I would bring it forward for consideration, even though we have to go through the public bidding process. They need to have that intent that you guys, that we're looking forward with an engine exchange. So,
It makes sense to me.
Which we've already made that declaration as a
you did,
Right.
correct.
board. So this is just kind of strange in the order of operations that we normally see with the bid going out and then approving the purchase at the same time. So
Whatever it takes to get it here the quickest, I guess.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve requisition 9941.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Matt, second by Kathy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the timeline is August, by August?
Yeah, so the proposal says by mid-August. They're fast-tracking it right now, so they have it scheduled to be starting to be delivered by what they're telling me, when I just had the conversation with them on Saturday, but it's by mid-July. They're hoping to have it up here by July and commissioned And they're even thinking if we keep it moving quickly, that we can actually start running it in August if we want to. So it's on the fast track right now. The LPT, they're still working on that, and that's their intention right now, is have all the stuff finalized in the next month, go through their testing at their site, and then ship it up here by the end of the month, by the end of July.
Seems to be a big change from what we saw before.
Sure does.
Yes, it is.
Amazing.
Things are happening, that's good.
Once you're doing what they, anyway, as long as we get it back, it's operational, and we get to utilize it for all the glory that we get for it. All right, anything else for the agenda that we missed?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Matt, second by Troy. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned.
I don't know.
With the ribbon
No,
cutting
I'm just,
ceremony.
I looked at
Yes.
that number and I'm just like,
Yeah. Can we get a ribbon cutting